How you doing, everyone? If you take a look, you have the chat there, so we can keep in touch on the chat. And just wanted to say hello. We have a couple minutes till we get started. I know it's 8 o'clock now. Let's just give people a few minutes. So really excited about tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I see we have, I guess this is the National Inventor Club. And I see it started off in Long Island here, where I was running 2 county offices here, running 2 county inventor clubs here on Long Island, and converted it into the Long Island Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club, now national. And I see we have a couple people from international. I see we have the Philippines, we have United Kingdom. I see New Orleans, that's in the US. So why don't you share with us where you're from while we're waiting for everybody to join? Good stuff. Hi, Diane. Guillermo, nice to meet you. Hey, Will, thanks for joining. Thanks for all your help and support. Will Salas, I'll introduce him again later on. He's from the PTRC, which is the Patent Trademark Resource Center, which is a division of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And if you want help with free patent searches, not to ask if your idea is a good idea, but they'll help you to search to see if there's prior art that's comparable to your patent, and they'll give you all the printouts or PDFs or whatever you need, and they'll be able to help you for free there. Also, the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, which is a division of the SBA, is very interesting. Also, you should take a look at that. They provide free resources if you need business plans, you need some market research. You meet with counselors for free. And once you start meeting with the counselors, they usually have really good connections and access to people in your area. So SBDC, there's America's SBDC, which will give you information on the nearest small business development center in your area. And usually they're located at the colleges. So that could be really interesting for you too. But our Inventors Club here is going to be great. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for joining. My wife and my daughter are on, I see. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Diane, good to see you. Alabama, Florida, New York City, John Doe. How you doing? Alexa Rose, good to see you. All right. Abe, long time no see. Come back to the meetings here virtually now. Good. I'm glad you're joining us. We have Boston, Los Angeles, Georgia, Missouri. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's get started. We're at a few minutes after the hour. So, again, welcome to the National Inventor Club. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I mentioned earlier, this is kind of like a spinoff, an expansion. You know, the last couple meetings with my local Long Island Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club, I was giving the link out to inventors all over the country. And I was like, you know, we're having our inventors meeting. Why not join? So I was sending the meeting link out to everybody. And I was like, you know what? Why shouldn't this be the National Inventor Club? Hopefully this COVID with the vaccine and everything goes away, but I don't know how long we're going to be going virtual, but this is a great way to be able to have these meetings. You know, I've been running the Inventors and Entrepreneurs Clubs meetings for over 14 years here on Long Island. And there's a lot of time, sweat, and energy and everything that goes into putting the inventor meetings together. So why not just have it for everybody to be able to share? And what I've done with my team is, if you take a look, and if you haven't been there already, please take a look at the nationalinventorclub.com. What you have there is a membership. I'm looking to go towards a non-for-profit. Right now it's for-profit. But anyway, listen to what you get. Hey, how you doing, Scott? Good to see you. Or at least good to see you in the chat. And Sam, how you doing? So for $129 for the year, what you're going to get is, and you can take a look at the menu, but basically you're going to be getting access to the Inventor Club meetings, and I'm going to have a couple more that are going to be free, obviously, but the access to the Inventor Club meetings, you're going to be getting part of the directory, which is really cool. You can put your information in there, and you'll have access to the service providers for inventors, but they're not going to have access to you. So if there's an engineer that decides to put their name in the directory, you'll be able to, as an inventor, see them, but they're not going to be able to see you. We don't want we respect and we love that the service providers that are going to be able to help us, but we also want to protect our own information. I've also put a forum, which we haven't started yet, but there'll be a forum that when you have a question about your invention, you'll be able to put your question on there, and there'll be people, whoever's a member will be able to answer and be able to help you with your invention or your question, or just get some resources on there also. Will Salas, who's from the PTRC I mentioned earlier, which is a division of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Patent and Trademark Resource Center. So what do? You can find one. Hopefully there's one locally by you, but they have access to the patent office, all the filings that are there. So Will is on with us, and he's going to share USPTO information whenever it comes out and it's related to what we need to know about. It'll be on there. So if you go on the homepage of the website later, you'll see. So there's the membership directory, access to the Inventors clubs. For those of you who have been part of my Inventor showcases, unbelievable. We've even had the New York Times cover our Inventor showcase. So we'll pick out inventors that are members, and you'll be able to have a 3-4 minute pitch. We'll see how many people would do it at a time. But you basically come on and you pitch your idea to everybody. It's not a contest. It's not a beating each other up. It's to help each other. Tell us what you've done, where you are, and where you want to go, and everybody is going to be able to help each other out. So I'm really excited about that. So the Inventor Showcase will have service provider showcases. So if you're a service provider, like you provide engineering services, you can come on and you can share your service information to the members also. A lot of great stuff. I'm just going to continue to keep adding new features to it. So please take a look. I'm not going to go into all the features, but my team and I really dedicated our time to be able to make this Inventor Club, National Inventor Club, for you, for the inventor. As an inventor myself, I look at what other people would want, and I want to see what I want, and I share that information with you. So good stuff. Oh, look at this. When you become a member and you pay for the premium membership, which is the $129, you're going to get a National Inventor Club t-shirt. I got mine, but it's too small. So make sure that you order the right size. So once you become a member, you'll be asked what size you want, and we'll send out a t-shirt to you. All right. So a lot of good stuff. I just wanted to make a couple quick intros. So I wanted to thank the Small Business Development Center from Farmingdale State College on Long Island, who's helped and support me for many, many years. When I was running in the club in Nassau County, I had Ed Mangano, County Executive Ed Mangano. In Suffolk County, I was as far back as Steve Levy and Steve Ballone now. So when I merged those together, Small Business Development Center took me on to make it Long Island Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club. So Erica Chase Gregory and Walter Reed, thank you for all your help and support. Will Salas is on from the PTRC, Patent and Trademark Resource Center. Terry Whipple. For those of you from Wisconsin, shout out to Wisconsin. All right. I think you're up to like 60 inventors groups in Wisconsin, but Terry Whipple is from the Economic Development from Juneau County in Wisconsin. And he was my mentor 15 years ago. Before I started the Inventors Clubs, I found him and all the amazing things that he was doing in Wisconsin. And that's when I took it to my economic development in Long Island. So here we are. We're sprouting out from all this, and now we're at the National Inventor Club. So I just wanted to give one more shout out. Oh, Sean Taylor, there you are. I see that you're in the chat. If you take a look at the web, Peter from Hicksville, welcome. If you take a look at the nationalinventorclub.com website, you'll see that every month, well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll be more than a month. Maybe it'll be half a month. We'll see. But we're going to have an inventor spotlight area. So we're going to choose a member from the month or whenever they do something fantastic, and we're going to post it. So the first inventor spotlight goes to Sean Taylor. She is from New Orleans, and she is an amazing person. She has an unbelievable drive that when she has something that was on her mind and she validated that it was something that could be something that somebody wants, her invention, she just went for it. And she's definitely gone through plenty of ups and downs, and she shared her trials and tribulations with me. But I also get to share her successes, and congratulations. You can read about her story on nationalinventorclub.com website as the first Inventor Spotlight. Congratulations, Sean. Good stuff. How you doing, Leonardo? Good to see you. All right. So how great is this? We are going to have amazing guests on the National Inventor Club meetings when we have them once a month. And our first one is Marty Cooper. Can you believe this? Marty Cooper, the inventor of the cell phone. Listen, stop with the chat for 1 second. If you don't have a cell phone, let me know that you don't have a cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone. And guess where it started from? Mr. Marty Cooper. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Marty be able to share his experiences as who he is, what he's about, how he came up with the invention of the cell phone, and what he's doing today. And then I'm probably going to have some questions for him. Then we're going to have a question answer session for Marty. I'll share some of the questions that are on the chat here with the audience, and Marty will be able to answer them. And then what we'll do is we'll have some general question answer. So maybe you have a question about a patent or a prototype or licensing or manufacturing. I know between myself and some other people that are on this chat, we'll be able to help. Anna, you don't have a cell phone? Okay. Anna doesn't have a cell. Oh, Vitaly doesn't have a cell phone. Marty, I'm not sure about this. We're going to have to talk to them after the show. All right. But they are on, and we're happy that you've joined us today. All right. So without further ado, let's bring on Marty Cooper. Marty, welcome to the show. Welcome to let me unmute him. Marty, welcome to the meeting. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being a guest on the first National Inventor Club meeting.
My great pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are, which we have an idea of who you are, but tell us who you are and where you're from and how you got started with coming up with the invention of the cell phone.
Well, let me start by saying that this is quite a challenge for me. You know, Brian, I've delivered 1,000 speeches in my time, but they've all been person to person. And I'm now trying to learn how to do a virtual speech. And I must tell you that it is a challenge. First of all, I have to look at the camera, not at the screen, and that in itself is a challenge. And the second thing is that when you deliver a talk, you like to look at people, get some feedback. And at the moment, all I can see is my ugly face looking back at me, and that's not very inspiring.
You could see my ugly face too if you want.
And then the additional challenge I have with the National Inventors Club is I have a perception of inventors. You don't invent things if you're happy about things as they are. Inventors tend to be critical, and they tend to look at things and say, I could do that better. And if you think about that's kind of a grouchy thing. And I now have 500 grouches looking back at me, and that's a little daunting. But I think I'm going to survive that. Good. So I thought maybe I would start out by talking a little bit about what I think is my most important invention. And I suppose, if you'll forgive me, I'll do a commercial. It's kind of interesting that the cell phone is certainly the most pervasive invention that's ever happened. There are now in the world more cell phone subscriptions than there are people. There are well over 8 billion cell phone subscriptions, only 7.5 billion people. There are actually 5.5 to 6 billion people that have cell phones. There's never been an invention that in such a short period, something less than 40 years, that has become that pervasive. And yet most people don't know where the cell phone came from. And so because of that, I decided to write a book on the subject. And I came to some interesting realizations. I discovered that there's no such thing as the eureka moment. I know you've all heard that about the aha moment, that I had this great idea. It turns out that really meaningful ideas take a lifetime sometimes. If they take background, they take an understanding of technology. They take more than anything else an understanding of people. And so my book ended up being more a story of the evolution of the cell phone, how it took an entire career and maybe even a heritage to come up with a cell phone. The second part of my book, by the way, the name of the book is Cutting the Cord, How the Cell Phone Has Transformed Society. The second part of the book talks about the way the cell phone is being used in the world today. And those of you that are in other countries will realize, and especially in emerging countries, will realize that the smartphone, which is what we in the States, I know that there are people from the UK, we think that the impact of the cell phone has been largely because of the smartphone, and that's not at all true. It turns out that the biggest impact of the cell phone today is in countries like, in places like Africa, India, Mexico, places where the cell phone is providing services and capabilities to people that never had them before. An example is in Africa, people have been unable to manage money other than with physical coins until recently. They now can use their cell phone to save money, to transfer money. It turns out that has caused an uplifting of commerce in Africa, such that in the last 20 years, over a billion people have moved out of severe poverty just because of the cell phone. In Mexico, we have situations where people in villages that have no doctor and have never had access to health care can now be treated by a doctor in Mexico City by virtue of having a cell phone, having very inexpensive devices, doing things like letting them look. The doctor in Mexico City is looking at their eyes to treat them. There is a very simple device that allows a doctor in Mexico City to do an ultrasonic test on a pregnant woman. It turns out that these are the really important things that have happened with the cell phone. And the final chapter of my book talks about what I think the future of the cell phone is, because I'm not really very happy with what the cell phone has become today. One of the things that all of you inventors know is that every person is different than every other person in the world. And yet the cell phone providers are trying to persuade us that everybody should have the same phone. And in fact, with regard to smartphones, it's almost true that there's hardly any difference between a Samsung phone and an Apple phone, and they're identical. And what you have is a phone that's a flat piece of plastic that you're putting against the curve head. The principle of the cell phone is that this thing will do all things for all people. And if you think about it, it doesn't do any of them in an optimal way. Boy, talk about a fertile place for inventors. because the future of the cell phone is going to accommodate the fact that every person is different from every other person. And the future of inventing is customizing. It's making things perfect for the characteristics of a unique individual. So I think that is an amazing opportunity. So I just thought I would mention to you a couple of principles that I think are important. And the most important principles to me about inventors is two things that are the bad things that inventors can do. The worst thing an inventor can do is fall in love with his invention or her invention and believe that the invention is perfect and become obsessed with it. Because an invention has no meaning, both legally and practically, unless it actually makes somebody's life better. The definition of technology is it's the application of science to create products and services that make people's lives better. And without that, without the people part, it's not an invention. Inventions have to be useful. It is a curiosity, and you're not going to make any money, and you're not going to get any satisfaction out of creating curiosities. And the second thing that I would warn people about is just what I said before, namely that the purpose of technology is to do something useful for people. And if it doesn't improve somebody's life, it's really not an invention, and you're very likely you're wasting your time. So, having said that, Brian, perhaps you'd like to open up the floor for questions, and if you run out of questions, I'll keep talking about.
Well, I'd like to expand a little bit more on what you've done so far and what you're up to now. So, Marty, you have the original cell phone or one of the originals in your possession there?
Yeah, this is an exact model of the very first cell phone. When we built the cell phone, we had conceived of something that was not much bigger than an existing cell phone. And then when we put a team together to build the insides, it turns out the battery alone was about 3 times the size of a modern cell phone. And so our initial model kept growing and growing. It ended up, the smallest we could make it was what you see here. When I hold it like that, it really looks big. But the phone weighs 2.5 pounds.
What year, Marty? What year was that?
1973. April 3rd, 1973 is when we made the first public call.
Well, I'm happy to say that phone is older than me by a few months.
This phone weighs 2.5 pounds. It has a battery life of roughly 25 minutes of talking. That's not really a problem because you couldn't hold this thing up for 25 minutes. It's so heavy. But it didn't take long for the phone to shrink. By the time the first commercial model came out, it was 10 years later, 1983. The first phones weighed about 1.5 pounds. And within a year or two, they were down to 1 pound. And of course, today, a typical phone is measured in ounces.
Marty, can you tell us how this idea came about and what did you do when you first came up with it?
Well, the first thing I would like to tell you is that the reason I wrote that book is to answer that question. And I wouldn't want to tell
by
you.
The way, what is the name of the book?
Pardon?
What is the name of the book?
Oh, Cutting the Cord.
Cutting the Cord.
Yeah.
And it's available now on Amazon or bookstores?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and I hope your neighborhood bookstore, but I wouldn't count on that. So, anyway,
right. So tell us, how did you come up with this idea?
the genesis of the cell phone was that the concept of having a cellular phone, of instead of having a single transmitter in a city, you have multiple transmitters, and that principle increases the capacity of the system. And that concept was developed by Bell Laboratories, which was a part of the Bell system, and which is before your time, Brian. In previous generations, the Bell system was a monopoly. You will discover when you read my book that I don't think much of monopolies. The thing that makes our world so productive is the fact that we have competition, and it is in fact that competition that allows people to become inventors, like most of the people that are listening to me now. And so the Bell system came up with this concept in 1946. And by 1969, they announced to the world that they were going to make a system called cellular. They were going to provide us with true mobile communications, and their definition of mobile communications was a car telephone. And we thought that was ridiculous. For 100 years, we had been stuck in our homes, tied to our desk by that copper wire, and now what they're going to do is trap us in our cars. And we felt that the time was ready to have the true freedom that comes from having a phone that you could carry around with you wherever you are. The Bell system had a monopoly in telephones, and they wanted a monopoly on cell phones. And so this little company, Motorola, in Chicago, took on the biggest company in the world by every measure. We fought them for 12 or 13 years. It was a dramatic, interesting story, I hope. And that is a story that I tried to tell in my book. In this process, we finally decided, or I decided, that the only way we were going to persuade people about the freedom that comes from true portable communications was to have a phone that you could carry with you. And the only way we're going to persuade people of that is to actually make one. And that's when we actually built this phone. My idea occurred in November of 1972. I put the team together at the beginning of 1973, and by March of 1973, we actually built a unit. It took a team of over 20 people just to do the phone. And of course, we had to build the system as well. And then we had to build it, reproduce that system in New York. We did it again in Washington with one purpose in mind, and that was to persuade the world that it was ready for true personal portable communications.
Wow.
Sorry about that long answer.
No, that's amazing. So what did you do after that point? Like, was there trial and did you get it perfection the first time around? Trial and error, prototyping? What was the process like, Marty?
Well, the one thing I have to tell you is I was really fortunate to be able to work for a company like Motorola, because between the time that we created that first phone and when it was commercialized, Motorola spent almost $100 million. And we came up with, this was the first phone that I just showed you a moment ago. And before we actually built the first commercial version, we did 4 iterations. And even then in 1983, when the first phones came out, they really didn't work all that great because the systems were not fully developed. You needed a reasonable amount of cell sites. And so you saw some of you may have seen the movie with Michael Douglas, where he, in the early scenes, he's driving around in a convertible holding this phone or
Falling down.
Yeah, and then
Is that the right movie?
Second version was 20 years later when he gets out of prison, and it turns out his phone is now obsolete and it really is primitive looking.
Wow, we have a lot of questions here. All right, Marty, before we start, I just have one more question for you. So you were working for Motorola and you were developing this invention, and on the patent, or like, a lot of people work for companies and they might be working on something in their company, or maybe they're working something on the side. But let's say you work for a company like Motorola. What kind of intellectual property rights do you get to keep if you're working on this invention?
Well, first of all, this phone, which we call the Dynatac phone, is patented. I'm the lead inventor on the patent. When I joined Motorola, I signed a document that turned over all my intellectual property to the company, for which they paid me $1.
Ooh.
And I have to tell you, Brian, it was the best deal that I ever had, because Motorola took care of me for 29 years. They pushed me faster than I could have gone. They tolerated my eccentricities for 29 years, and it was a great deal.
Anna's asking what happened. Why only $1?
Oh, that's every engineer that joined Motorola had to turn their intellectual property over to the company. That is, in fact, I think that's true of most companies today. That if you join a company and you use their resources, their marketing ability, that your intellectual property belongs to the company.
Are you the inventor on the patent?
Yes, I'm the lead inventor.
Okay. Any royalties at all? I know you got the $1 from the start, but any royalties, anything?
No, not at all. Well, just think about it, Brian. If that was my invention, where would I have come up with $100 million before the first one was sold?
Well, you get a chance to tell your story and share it with us here, but what's come about it? Like, how do you feel? Like you said, it was the best $1 that you ever got, and it was the greatest experience. So tell me, like, what is it? How has it evolved for you? Like, has it brought you other types of opportunities?
Well, I certainly the cell phone was not my first invention, and it was not my last invention. But it opened all kinds of doors to me, because I get to talk to people like you and the people that are in the audience. But I haven't stopped thinking. Today, I'm a member of a organization called the Technology Advisory Council, for the Federal Communications Commission. This is a group of 50 technologists that advise the FCC, and I still have ideas. I still promote those ideas. Some of them are mentioned in the book. I have created a system that I think can revolutionize education in the world, because I think our educational processes today are obsolete. They don't take advantage of the fact that every student today has access to all the information in the entire world, and the educational process does not take advantage of that in any way at all. So I have to tell you that if somebody wanted to be an inventor, this is the best time in history for somebody to be alive, because there are so many opportunities, so much technology to be that you can build upon, that the world is rife with opportunities for inventors.
Yeah. Well, child, be safe. I know this is George and Kelly. How long did it take Marty to patent his idea, and what did it cost to patent and bring his inventions to fruition from start to finish? Who funded his idea? So you kind of answered that, right?
Yeah, the cost of the patent itself was almost irrelevant. The patent actually didn't. We patented, I guess, in about 1971, and the patent issued actually in 1973. So it took 2 years, which is not a lot, as you know, Brian, for
Yeah.
a patent to get issued. But that was almost irrelevant. The when you come up with a really new idea like that, and the amount of engineering is enormous, and then besides that, you had this battle with the Bell system, Motorola spent, I mentioned a figure of 100 million, but this was in $1970. If you did it today with the same dollars, counting inflation, it'd be more like $250 million without making a nickel.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the questions were how did you and your team fund it? Like Allison asked, did Marty work on a team? How did he fund it, himself in the growth stage? So it was Motorola, right? Many of you asked the same question as well.
The Motorola management, for all practical purposes, bet their company on my idea. So talk about an opportunity. You could see why the fact that they paid me $1 for the intellectual property was meaningless. How else could I have done that? And then besides that, I had to travel around the company. I knew that the technologies were all there. Many of the technologies that went into this phone were started in our laboratories, and many of them were ideas that I had planted there. And the company let me reach out into these laboratories and pick out the best people to do the job. And those are the guys that actually built this phone.
Excellent. Here's another question from Don. That's the big question. How do small inventors who feel they can change the world find funding and backing from the corporations and such?
Well, that's a very hard question because corporations are not set up to accommodate the ideas of individual inventors. And so the only advice that I could give, and you have more experience in that than I do, Brian, is first of all, you really have to understand the technology and be able to make a contribution to that invention so that you can turn it, when you try to sell it to a corporation, you're selling something real. You have to either be able to demonstrate it. And my wife and I started a business based upon her invention of a phone called the Jitterbug phone. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
My wife invented the Jitterbug phone. It's a phone that was simple to use. It was aimed at people who wanted simplicity, mostly older people. And when we wanted to fund the phone, we discovered that nobody thought our idea was any good. And furthermore, it was hard to find somebody who would build a phone for us. And I actually used my influence I was friendly with the president of Samsung. I persuaded him that this was going to be a good business. So Samsung actually built a phone for us. But Brian, it took us, we ended up with 50,000 customers before we got a venture capitalist to come and put money into the business. So we'll come up with a new idea, and it's hard. And I think all of your inventors know that. First of all, I have a rule that there's no easy business of any kind. Anybody thinks there's a new business hasn't started one. And creating an invention is not easy. You do have to do all of the things that you talked about, and you have to be persistent.
There's a lot of questions coming in, Marty. Can you tell us where you see the cell phone going in the future? We will read your book, of course, but I can't wait to know. Uh-oh. Don't give it all away, Marty. And by the way, there's a few of them that are asking for signed autographs. I don't know what you could do with that too, for your book.
Well, we'll cover that later. But there is a chapter in the book on the future. I told you before that I think a cell phone is suboptimal. Why? Because a cell phone is not customized to the individual. And Samsung and Apple will tell you, well, you can customize it by just getting the right apps. Oh, yeah, of course. There are 2 million apps available for the Apple phone and 2 million apps available for the Samsung phone. And all you have to do is sort through those 2 million phones to figure 2 million apps to figure out what's right for you. Right. Hopefully. And the vision that I have, first of all, is that phones have to be customized to individuals. Every person will have a phone that is designed for their purposes, It will be distributed on their body. It will not be just a piece of plastic. For those people that want speech, as an example, the phone will perhaps be a device that's stuck on next to their ear. Ultimately, it's going to be embedded under their skin near their ear, powered by their body. And when you want to make a phone call, you say, computer, get Brian on the phone.
Well, I hear a lot of people saying Siri, Alexa, okay, Google.
Exactly, except this is your artificial intelligence.
My phone went off.
Not Google's artificial intelligence. And this artificial intelligence that is part of your, by the way, it really is ironic to call it a phone, right? It's now a supercomputer. But this artificial intelligence will get to know you, will understand what your needs are, and will constantly adjust its software to serve your purposes. That's what the cell phone of the future will do.
Unbelievable. Here's another question from Sam. What industries do you think inventors should focus on in the next 5 to 10 years?
All of them.
You hear that, Sam?
The energy industry is just getting a start. The cell phone engenders so many different businesses, services. The computer itself is still under evolution. We're still learning how to make computers more powerful. Artificial intelligence is introducing a whole new class of products like what I just described to you, that the cell phone will evolve to. So the world is just so full of opportunities. The challenge is not at all to find the opportunities. It's to get the right one and to have the persistence to stick with it and make it happen.
It's unbelievable that not only are you an inventor, you're the inventor of the cell phone, and you're in our meeting here, and we get to ask you questions about invention, but also on the cell phone. And it's like, it's a topic or it's something that everybody knows and understands. So it's definitely relative to what we're going over today. So I have another question here, which I guess it could be good for everyone. So it's from Rick. Any thoughts on the privacy issue, Android versus iOS?
No, I think they're all bad. So privacy is a huge issue. And at the moment, we don't have very much privacy. But there are people working on the problem, including, I mentioned that my wife is a visionary, and she has actually formed a nonprofit organization that is working on the privacy issue. And the essence of that is at the moment, we are being persuaded by Google, Amazon, Apple, all these big guys, that our information belongs to them, that they can come and store our information, give us all these free services. You got that? We're going to give you something for free. Do you believe that? If you do, you shouldn't be an inventor, and you shouldn't. You're not qualified to do anything, because they are using our information. They are not paying us for that information. That's all wrong. So the evolution has to be such that we own our own information, that we decide who that information goes to. If that information is used by somebody, they ought to pay us for the use of that information. So we're just getting started on the privacy issue, but our privacy is now being abused, taken advantage of by a whole bunch of people, and you know what their names are. I don't have to tell you now.
Yeah. Well, Doug Pittman asked, should inventors patent in today's big tech environments efficient infringement recourse environment? Question.
Well, I'm not sure I understand all these words of this, all in one sentence. That's quite an amazing sentence. But what is the purpose of a patent? Well, it's to give you exclusivity. And if you do have an idea, you really need that protection. the sad part about it is that it's very hard to write a patent that is so exclusive that it will keep a big company out of every aspect of the patent. And that's why it's so important, first of all, to get the patent to cover all potential versions of the invention, but it's also very important if an inventor can actually implement the patent and actually have customers, because a corporation will pay more for the customers than they will pay for the invention itself. So there are many paths to monetizing an invention, but one that my wife and I found useful in creating the Jitterbug was to actually create a business and make that business valuable enough. Our Jitterbug business is now part of Best Buy, and Best Buy spent a lot of money, fortunately for us, to get that.
Good. So there has been some nice returns after putting your name on as an inventor and making $1 from Motorola.
Yeah, well, as I say it, you don't look at each element of your career one at a time. Everything builds on everything else. And along that line, one of the founder of Motorola came up with a advice, and it was, do not fear failure, reach out. And to me, that was one of the most important lessons that I learned in my life. If you are worried about every idea that you have, you're worried about working on it because you might fail, you'll never do anything.
Right.
You have to take a chance. And if you fail, you have to recognize that you have learned a lesson, you are stronger, you are wiser, and the next time you'll do better.
Keith has a question. When cell phones added features and technology, was Mr. Cooper's role in authorizing and licensing, or what was, I'm sorry, Mr. Cooper's role in authorizing and licensing? How did that work?
Well, when you talk about my role, when you're in a corporation, it's all teamwork, but I spent many years trying to influence the Federal Communications Commission, because they made the rules, that number one, that monopolies are bad, that there had to be competition. And we finally, and it really was tough, persuaded them right from the beginning of cellular that there was competition. And not only that, we ended up dividing the country up by areas, so that there were many, many entrepreneurs throughout the country that acquired licenses one way or the other. And it's that competition and that energy that made the cell phone industry grow like that. So I did have some influence on that, but it was all working with Motorola. Subsequently, as I mentioned before, I've been on a number of government committees, and I keep beating the drum on issues like education, on the importance of having more and better competition, and on how valuable the cell phone is in improving, in solving the poverty problem, in improving productivity. That's the most important thing that cell phones have done for us. They make us more productive.
There's a bunch of questions that came in, Marty. Besides the invention of the cell phone, what other patents do you have?
Most of them you would be unaware of. One of the inventions that I came up with before the cell phone, there were radio pagers. And the first radio pagers were my product, first widespread use of radio pagers. And that was a huge industry. There were, in the United States alone, there were well over 50 million pagers, of course.
Pagers, beepers?
Beepers, yeah. It's amazing how
oh my goodness.
beepers pretty much got wiped out. I invented a system that allowed control of traffic lights by radio. And most traffic lights today are, in fact, controlled by radio. And you wouldn't know about most of the things that I've come up with because they're all obsolete now, and almost all of my inventions are the patents have run out. The most important invention that I was involved in, although I was not the inventor, I started a company in 1992 that did a thing called smart antennas. And what smart antennas do is make the transmission and the building of cell phone systems such that the cost is much, much lower and they have much higher capacity. We came up with that technology in 1992, and here it is 30 years later, and it's just being implemented by the major carriers, and it's very much a part of what people call 5G.
Wow. What's another question? It was a little earlier. The questions and the comments are coming in. What's your favorite invention besides your own?
Oh, is that a hard question?
What do you value the most? I don't know if anybody saw my post on LinkedIn the other day, and actually maybe a couple of my other social, but the airbag last Tuesday saved my life. I would not be here today if I didn't have an airbag. So right now, the airbag is the most important thing to me.
Well, that's as good as the answer as any. I'd like to point out something which is not directly relevant to that. A very good question. There has never been an invention that didn't depend upon other inventions. Now, that's something you could be thinking about. So even when you think about the invention of the wheel, and somebody had to have invented the wheel at some point, and if you look at our modern society, we would be nowhere without the invention of the wheel. And yet there were other inventions that the wheel depended upon, like having a log that you would roll a block to build a pyramid on. So yes, inventions have to be original, but every invention is based upon other people's inventions.
Yep. Marty, maybe you have an answer to this. How do you protect an idea before you even get it to patent pending stage? How do you protect the idea during pre-stage so you can raise funding or present it to a manufacturer? This is a challenge. So I know that you could probably share your experiences from being in those corporations, that when you were coming up with these ideas, how to protect it. What was your experience that you could share with the inventors listening?
Well, the first thing is don't be a blabbermouth. The minute you tell somebody about your invention without having a non-disclosure signed by them, it's no longer patentable. And that is the biggest danger that an inventor can have. And the challenge is getting people to sign that non-disclosure. There are venture capitalists, as an example. There are some that won't even sign a non-disclosure. Big corporations almost never sign non-disclosures because they will tell you, well, we may have that invention in our laboratories that we don't even know about. So whoever asked the question, when they ended the question by saying this is a challenge, they knew the answer before I said a word.
Travis asks, he says, hello, Martin, and thank you, Brian. If some of us here have patented products that we invented, are you open for us sending you? I don't know if this is actually a finished product that they want to send you so you can enjoy in your home and enjoy for the reason that they came up with it, or if they're looking for you to take on their invention and bring it to market for them. And also, what's your favorite part of the invention process? Travis asks.
Well, first of all, I would love to look at all of your inventions. But, believe it or not, I'm 92 years old. You never mentioned you were kind enough not to mention that. But my wife and I are in the process of starting another company, which we've been working on for almost 10 years, have spent a huge amount of money, and we are full-time devoted to this. So I just don't have the time or the energy to work on other people's inventions. But what was the second part of this question?
What is your favorite part of the invention process?
I could respond to. There's nothing more thrilling than having a new idea, a new way of looking at something. That's not only what an invention is; it can be just an original idea. But even if you in the future discover, well, somebody had that idea first, the fact that you had that idea and it's a different way of looking at something is the most thrilling thing in life. Taking that idea and turning it into an invention, and then turning the invention into a product, gets to be a long process and is much harder. But the thrill of thinking of the idea, I can't describe that, is wonderful.
So you're still going strong, Marty. There's no stopping. You're talking about just starting another business?
Yeah, we are. Talk about being an optimist. It takes 10 years for us to get that business going. I'm going to be 102. And I think I'm going to make
it. I'm sure you will. Even before we started the meeting, you were coming up with amazing ideas that we were sharing together.
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Marty, your secret's safe with me. I'm not publicly disclosing it, so we'll sign an NDA after, no problem. Marty, here's another question from Rick. Is there any truth to the negative health allegations of cell phones? Are you familiar with this?
Oh, are you kidding? I have been studying this problem. The question is that he's asking is this radiation, radio frequency radiation, does it have health effects? We've been studying that problem from the day that I joined Motorola, which was in 1954, which is, I'm not even going to do the arithmetic, but it was a long time ago. The first test we did is we took a bunch of handheld radios that looked very much like this first phone, and we strapped them to the head of pigs, and we turned these phones on and off. This is like 60 years ago, and then after a month, we butchered all these pigs and examined their brains, and we didn't find anything. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you medical advice, but I can tell you that there have been hundreds of studies done. The theory supports all of these studies. There is no evidence that there's any effect on the human body of cell phone, of radiation, radio frequency radiation, of the order of magnitude that you get from either a cell phone or from a transmitter that's on a building or anything like that. I use cell phones. I've had cars with two cell phones built into the car. And so far, there is, I haven't, this is really going a little far out, but my personal evidence is the more you use the cell phone, the smarter you are. So I don't make me come up with all the evidence for that, but think about it. What radio frequency radiation does is it warms things. That's what your microwave does.
Right.
It turns out that the warming effect of a cell phone on your brain is insignificant and is a tiny, tiny fraction of what you get when you walk out into the sunshine. So you're safe. You can use the cell phone, but don't sue me if you get brain cancer.
I did some housekeeping the other day, Marty. I pulled out a StarTAC, the flip, and that had to be the coolest thing at the time. The beeper in one side and the StarTAC in the other side. StarTAC, Motorola StarTAC. Oh, you're getting such great comments here. Janet, very informative, terrific discussion with a brilliant mind. He is certainly going strong. I see no health risk. Marty is truly an inspiring individual and looks great. What is your secret to staying young and living a long life?
Well, once again, I'm not a doctor, but I have three issues. I do exercise. I was an avid runner. I can't say that it was all good because I have two artificial hips now, but I still exercise. I still go upstairs enough so that I reach my absolute limit of pulse rate. And so exercise is important. I don't abuse my eating. I maintain a reasonable weight. But I think the most important part of aging is having a positive attitude. And you can tell that I'm an optimist. Sometimes I overdo the optimism. I take chances that I shouldn't take. I just stopped skiing 2 years ago because I did my hip transplants, and I'm not sure that I'm going to ski again because that really is risky for a guy that's in his 90s. But then again, I may get up on skis once more. But being an optimist and looking forward to what the next day is going to be like, and what the next interesting person you're going to run into, what the next positive event is. All those things are really important in keeping people young.
Very nice. Wow, some great comments, Marty. You're really an inspiration to so many people. You're an inspiration, Marty. I am enjoying listening to you and your experiences. Somebody's asking, Lee is asking, what are you eating? They want to know your diet, so maybe you can sell that as your next business. Another question that came by, and I can't find it. We're really getting a bunch of comments and questions. What is the new business that you and your wife are starting? Are you allowed to disclose that?
Well, I can tell you what the general idea is, and that is that remember I talked about privacy and about you owning your own information. And it turns out that the technology exists today so you could have all of your information stored in a private place that you control if only you had ways of accessing that information. And so my wife came up with this idea. We've hired people who are experts in artificial intelligence. And just imagine if you could have a device that allowed you to reach for anything that occurred in your life that was storable, to find it easily and to know that nobody else can get at it unless you can. And most importantly, allow you to share that with other people when you want to share it. So we have spent a huge amount of our own money trying to create that capability. Even today, we're not certain that this is going to be real business, but we're going to try very hard to make it a business.
Very nice. Well, good luck. We're all rooting you on here, so definitely keep in touch with us. So, Marty, I know we're about an hour or so in. You're okay for a couple more questions?
I'm your servant.
Awesome. Travis, are there particular states of mind or experiences that lead to inventive thoughts for you? Or is it just random as you come across hurdles in life? Your previous answer to my question was incredible.
Well, I don't remember what the previous answer was. My wife is a more creative inventor than I am. And I think I expressed it before. You have to have a questioning mind to be an inventor. You have, whatever you see, if you keep thinking about there's a better way to do this, then you have a world full of opportunities. And the only challenge is it's very hard to do that and still have a positive attitude. So, I leave that to the individual who's listening to me. You've got to figure it out yourself. How do you balance those things? How do you walk around in the world being critical of everything, unhappy about it. On the other hand, have a very positive attitude and look forward to the next day and look forward to the next person you're going to talk to, because you're going to learn something from them.
This is an easy one. Where are you from, Marty? And where did you grow up? Same place as you are now?
No, not really. That's actually in my book. I was actually born in Chicago, but I lived my early years in Winnipeg, Canada. That's where I became so hardy, because it's very cold in Winnipeg, but it's also a neat place to come from. And most of my life I grew up in Chicago, but I now live in Del Mar, California. And it's dark here now, but if it was later, I could let you look out the window and you would see the beach and the Pacific Ocean.
Very nice. Let's get one more question here. I feel honored to be a part of listening to Martin. I believe to be listening to modern day likes of Thomas Edison, Alexander.
I'm on a show now. This is my wife calling.
Put her on speaker.
I'm going to tell her that I got 500 people listening to me. But thank you. Bye.
That's awesome. Well, this is a real honor of a comment. I believe to be listening to modern day likes of Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Martin invented the top product of our lifetime. What do you think when somebody says that to you, Marty?
That I really didn't. You're going to find out when you read my book. I didn't do it all by myself. There were many thousands of people that created the industry. I'm very proud that I had the idea to do the first phone. The thing I'm most proud of is that I did invent a quotation. You ready for this? My quotation is, you could look this up. The best way to think out of the box is to not create the box in the first place. So just think about that for a while, because you're going to be a successful inventor. You have to really think out of the box.
Janet asked, how did you get interested in inventions? Was your mom or dad an inventor?
Janet, from my earliest days, and I'm talking about, when I was 4 years old, I really wanted to understand how everything worked. Seriously, I just don't know what part of my upbringing caused that. But I was taking things apart when I was a little kid, and having a thrill of understanding things, or in some cases, taking them apart and not being able to put them back together again. So, everybody in the world is different, and I happen to be lucky enough to grow up the way I did. But the beauty of the world is diversity. No two of us are the same, so I don't expect anybody to emulate me. But whatever you can do well, then you should express yourself that way. And everybody can do something well.
Absolutely. Great comments and questions, everyone. Thank you so much. So, Marty, I asked you the same question, I think probably, I don't know, when you did my radio show many, many years ago. I think it was probably in 2008, maybe 2010. So there's inventors that are listening at all stages of their invention. They could have their idea in their head. They could be at a prototype stage. They're trying to figure out if they want to license their idea so they can earn royalties, or they want to manufacture their idea. Just if you can help us and give us some final words of wisdom, some advice from somebody like yourself, the inventor of the cell phone, what would you tell us?
Well, I think you got the whole message. The message, I guess, what the most important thing, because I lecture my wife on this all the time, because every once in a while she gets so critical about how people could be doing things better. The most important thing in life is to like yourself. you don't want to become enamored of yourself, but you have to accept the fact that you are imperfect. But if you're trying to make yourself better all the time, then it doesn't make any sense for you to dislike yourself, or to be unhappy with yourself, or not to like the way you look, or not to think that you're achieving enough. You have to have some level of satisfaction with yourself, so you can keep improving yourself and making yourself better. So that's easier said than done, but it took me a long time to get to the point where I think, at least in some respects, I'm a pretty neat guy. But boy, can I tell you all about my faults too. I'm not going to dwell on those. I'm only going to talk about the things that I like about me.
Well, Marty, you have a tremendous, you have so much ahead of you. It sounds like you're really keeping yourself moving. You have this book. Can you tell us the name of the book, please, one more time? Everybody should help and support Marty and his cause and read it. I'm a little nervous that you're saying how much you dislike the way that the cell phone has grown. People are really looking at this as like their real lifeline these days. So it's going to be really interesting and to see you and to read your point of view for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much, but do you notice the trend already? People have been buying the latest iPhone or the latest whatever Samsung calls their phone every year because there are new features, and they're struggling now to find out what the next feature is, because you can have only so many pixels and so many megahertz and so many megabits per second that beyond that you just don't get any benefit from it. So the next features of the cell phone are going to be more like I talked about before, that's customized to the individual. So I know there was a part two to what you just asked.
Well, you know what it really, well, it was about the book. So
the book, Cutting the Cord.
Cutting
the Cord is the title. You remember my name, because if you just look up on the web, Marty Cooper, Cutting the Cord, you'll get directions to Simon and Schuster actually distribute the book. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, and you can get it in Audible, ebook, and hardcover. How about that? And if anybody, I don't like to do this because it turns out the mail is so costly now. It costs you about as much to get me to sign the book as it would to buy the book in the first place. But anybody that sends me a book, I'll be absolutely delighted to sign it for you and personalize it.
Hey, I have a question that nobody asked. What cell phone are you using today?
Well, I have my. First of all, anybody that comes up with a new feature, for a while I was getting a new phone every 3 or 4 months, because every time I get a phone, they'd come up with some new feature. It turns out that the last year or two, it's actually just a little over a year, there just aren't any new features, and I'm now using an iPhone. And the only advantage I find to my iPhone is that it is integrated with my iWatch. And even though the phones themselves are now, it's hard to discriminate between an iPhone and other phones because they've all copied each other for the good features. But I like the ability to integrate the watch. And as I said before, next thing you know, you're going to have features like if you're subject to heart failure, you're going to have a device that you can stick on your chest, and it'll warn you whether you're about to have a heart attack and all kinds of other things. So the cell phone's going to ultimately be distributed, and when they start coming out, then I'm going to get a new phone. And the disadvantage of that is you never learn how to really work a phone before you're doing the next one, and they always make it hard. I do have one other thing, Brian.
Tell me.
I made some notes. I want to talk to you guys about technology for a minute. And that is, what's bad technology? Bad technology is when you have to have an instruction manual to figure out how to use it. And the very first cell phone had instruction manuals that were as big and heavy as the phone itself. Good technology is intuitive. You pick a device up and you know what to do. Somehow you get messages from the phone. The ultimate technology, excellent technology, is invisible. The technology is there. It serves you. It makes your life better, and you don't even know that it's there. So if you want to build the ultimate inventions, the ones that you don't see and that serve you are the best ones. And that's my final comment. Wonderful to talk to everybody here. You guys have been inspiring.
Thank you so much. You know what, Marty? Before we take you off the solo screen here, can you put the original cell phone up to the screen for us one more time? Just give us a little 360. Give us a little 360 view. Look at that.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Actually, this is an exact model.
Unbelievable.
I sent it to somebody, and they did a 3D version of it. And I should hold it next to me so it doesn't look like it's bigger than it actually is. For a while, we called it the shoe phone for obvious reasons.
That is awesome.
Of the phone, this much of it is battery, this much. And there are literally a couple of thousand parts in it. A modern cell phone has only roughly 113 or so parts because it has these large-scale integrated circuits. But it was amazing that they made this thing work.
One more quick question, Marty. This is interesting. And this came up a couple times. Do you watch the show Shark Tank?
What is the show? Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It's an interesting show, and the only observation I have about that is what makes those guys so smart. There's only one reason that they are smarter than the rest of it. They got money enough to invest in things, but their guesses are not much better than most of the rest of us. They just happen to have some experience, but mostly they have access to money.
And Vitaly said that it was called the shoe phone in the 80s. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what my guys called it for a while. Yeah, that was actually in the 70s.
Well, Marty, thank you so much. You're more than welcome to stick around. What I'd like to do with everybody, and again, Marty, thank you for joining us on the first National Inventor Club meeting. You are an amazing guest. You're an inspiration, and with all these comments and everybody, that this is unbelievable. You did a great job. Thank you so much, Marty.
Thank you, and good luck to everybody, and good luck to you, Brian. Thank you for putting this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So for everybody that's still on, so this was the first National Inventor Club meeting. We're going to have monthly meetings. There's going to be other events that are going to be going on throughout the year and throughout the months. There'll be all kinds of activities. So please check out nationalinventorclub.com. So what I like to do, and what I always did with my local inventors meetings, was be able to have kind of like a power 10, 15-minute question answer. So I know that there's people that are on this on the meeting that have licensed their product. They've manufactured their product. I see engineers on here, product designers. I see patent attorneys on here. I see a lot of different service providers that are on here, as well as inventors. And I know inventors that are on here that have product that they've had success with. So why don't we do a quick 10 minutes? If you can hold on for 10 more minutes, if you have to go, go. But we're going to give some great advice here. So Me personally, I've manufactured products, I've licensed products, I earn royalties from them today still. My products are in retail stores. So between all of us, let's try to help each other out. So the forum is going to be on the National Inventor Club website when you become a member, if you become a member. But right now, let's go through. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I know there was some about non-disclosure agreements. There was some about PTAB, I think some of you we're kind of collaborating there with. So any questions that you have? Are you stuck at some point? Do you have a question about marketing, licensing, manufacturing? Ask away. If you don't have any, that's okay. We can we can move on and wait for the next meeting. But if there's any questions, please ask them so we can all help each other out. We'll give a quick second. I can zip through all these questions and comments here. You know, I have to say that, oh, here we go. I have patents here. Let's put this on here. I have patents, prototypes, and models, all that, but cannot get it to a point of finding any investors. What am I doing wrong? Okay, Don. Well, feel free to continue asking the questions in the chat here, but let me just look at this one more time. So, you know, there's a lot of people that get to the point where they have patents and prototypes and all that. So finding an investor. Well, let's say, Don, I ended up giving you the money. Are you ready to go into business for yourself? Is that what you want to do? Because if I'm going to give you money, I want to know that you're going to be able to start the business. So you're telling me that you want the money so you can manufacture it. Then you're going to put it in a warehouse or maybe in your garage. You have retail buyers possibly. You have different types of distribution. You're going to put it on Amazon. Are you going to take a salary for yourself? So a lot of times when you're going to investors, those are the type of things, because I'm working with a few inventors right now that are in the same situation. They're actually making their product, selling it, and they need money for inventory and to expand. But in my experience, I've been doing this for a long time. It's very difficult. It's not impossible to be able to raise money when you have a prototype, but it's difficult, you know. Here's somebody else. Rick says, have you used crowdfunding like Kickstarter or Indiegogo? I'm probably going to have one of those on one of the upcoming meetings, because I've had them in the past at my Long Island clubs. But yeah, I mean, you can go to one of those Kickstarter campaigns or Indiegogo. Just remember what you have to do there. First, in my opinion, and I want to keep this factual, but, you know, in my opinion, you should have some sort of intellectual property protection before you list your product or your idea on one of those websites, because everybody in the world can see it. And then once you put it up, which it requires some prep work, but then you have to start to figure out how to get people to see your listing there. So you're going to go on social media. You're going to ask a bunch of people to help fund your campaign, fund your invention. Then you got to do it again and again and again. So yeah, there are some that go viral, but it takes time to get there, if it does at all. And if it doesn't work out, what would happen then if you try to go to license your idea, where you're basically giving, or you're renting the rights, I should say, to your intellectual property for somebody to a company to manufacture it and to market it, and for you to earn royalties. And then when they look up and they see that you had your product or your idea on Indiegogo or Kickstarter and it failed, do you think they're going to want to license it? So really try to be intuitive and think about what's going to happen if it doesn't go well, exposed like that. And a lot of licensees, they're realistically going to want to be the first one to be able to disclose it or to show it out in the public. So if it's already out there, you know, they might be hesitant to show it. That's the one of the main things, that when I show potential licensees a product or an idea, they want to know where it's been. So just a couple points there for coming up with financing and crowdfunding. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. If I go to a patent lawyer and I tell him my idea, what if the patent is too costly? Isn't it possible he can use the idea himself, give it to someone else who can afford the patent? I think the patent or the patent. Well, Joyce, look, one thing that I can say when you're doing research with a patent attorney, or there's a patent attorney and a patent agent. A patent attorney can litigate. They went to law school. They have a law degree. A patent agent is somebody that has been connected with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and they can file, and they can go back and forth with office actions, but they don't litigate. They're not a lawyer. They don't go to court. So one thing that I like to do, and I kind of mentioned to inventors, is you can go on uspto.gov website, and you can actually put in the patent attorney's name, and you can see how many patents they were actually on. And you can see if they work with individual inventors, if they work with corporations. It's kind of interesting to see. A lot of times they'll say, oh, well, I worked for a law firm and I had to put it under their name. It's okay. That's fine. But at least you know, as an inventor, that you're doing your due diligence and seeing that there's what they've done. And, you know, another thing also, look, I'm very friendly with a lot of patent attorneys and agents, but with patent attorneys or agents or anything that you do in life, there's nothing wrong with you getting another quote or getting 2 or 3 quotes. It's really important for you to do your due diligence to know who you're working with. Look, that the other part of that question was, can you trust them? Well, they're part of like, if you're going to talk to a patent attorney, you don't need a non-disclosure agreement. If you want them to sign it, you can ask them to sign it, but they're obligated by their law degree not to disclose your idea to anybody without your permission. You want them to sign an NDA, ask them. So that was another point. Look, a lot of people, inventors, like, and I'm an inventor also, a lot of inventors get nervous about talking to your idea, talking about your idea. But if you don't talk about it to anybody, then it's going to be a woulda, coulda, shoulda type of experience later on. The best thing to do is try to do your due diligence, do your research, protect it, do a patent search, right? And be able to do the best that you can to keep your idea moving forward. That's really a very important part that I have to say from listening to the inventors out there. So that was Joyce. Investors bet on the jockey, not the horse. Good comment, Doug. Yeah, Yasin, it may be easier to license a concept than the long road of developing a prototype. Then use the money you made licensing to patent other ideas. Is there a way to license a concept without a patent? Well, look, being somebody who, I have my products I've manufactured and licensed and act as a licensing agent at times when there's a good opportunity. Every person and every product or idea is different. It really is relative to who you are, and it's up to you to decide what direction that you want to take. Look, just because you have an idea and people are saying no to licensing, and remember, I know a lot of you are new to this. So licensing means that, let's say you get some sort of intellectual property. So you did your due diligence, you did your you did a patent search, you got a patentability opinion. So and then you're going to see if your idea is something that makes sense out there. So when you end up, I'm sorry, there's a lot of comments coming through. I want to focus. Maybe next time I'll have somebody manage the comments for me, because this is amazing, the interaction here. But what I was going to say was that, if you don't have any intellectual property, then what do they really need you for? They can do it themselves. So you want to be able to do your due diligence on it. Try to get up to at least a provisional patent application, which will give you the right for 1 year to say that your idea is patent pending while you explore the market, and then decide if you're going to go for the non-provisional patent application, otherwise known as the utility patent, or just maybe it's a design patent. But what I ultimately was going to say here was that just because a licensee says that they're not interested in your idea, it doesn't mean that your idea sucks. It just means that it's not for them. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe they have too many products in their pipeline. Maybe this whole COVID thing is stopping them from activity. There's no trade shows going on right now. So the buyers, how are they showing the buyers new products? So there's a lot of variables, and it's about timing. Look, I've had products that I've showed to different licensees, and they said, no, no, no. I ended up manufacturing it myself and selling it, and then all of a sudden they all wanted it. Or it could have been another instance where I showed my product over and over again, and I went back to the same company years later and they loved it. I'm like, so it's about timing. It's about their pipelines. It's about the market. It's about the buyers who they're pitching. So that's kind of on the licensing side. All right, Yassine? Okay. Anything else? And many of you are experienced also. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to, or answers or comments about what these questions are, please feel free. Thanks. File for erosional patent first because of security concerns. Okay. Duke, $75 on your own and do a full online patent for $400 and change directly with the United States, and file directly, I think, with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. May I suggest another option is to file your PPA for $7? I'm not sure what that means. Kimberly, USPTO is starting a podcast soon. I'll get you the details. Okay. How can you determine what a fair royalty amount? 3.535. This is a really interesting question. Or is there any industry standard? I've had a chance to be involved in many industries for licensing, at least for pitching them, for sure. And I had an inventor. I don't know if he's on. I have to catch up after this. But there was an inventor that I worked with that had a game invention, and he wanted to license his idea, and I kind of coached him through what he needed to do. And he came back to me and he said, Brian, I'm so excited. I got 2 deals on the table. I have one for 5% and I have another one for 10%. Am I ridiculous not to take the 10% one? I said, well, go back and take a look at what their distribution channels are. Well, one of them was in the 10% one was in gift shops and specialty type of stores. And the other one at 5% was in Target and Toys R Us back in the day, and those type of stores. So much more traffic with a lower royalty rate. I can also give you 100% to zero, right? So you want to be able to make sure that if you have a partner or a potential licensee that you're going to be working with, does it make sense? You know how many times lately I'm looking at products and I show it, or I talk to the inventor. I'm like, I'm going to show this to the licensee, but what are they going to say? Well, they're going to sell some, but is it going to be worth their time and effort and the royalty checks that they're going to have to send to you? So is it something that they're going to sell a ton of? Well, we all feel as inventors that we're going to sell a ton of, or everybody in the world is going to want our idea. At the same time, you have to be realistic. It's like the person that comes to me with the most amazing golf ball, and they tell me everybody in the world is going to want their golf ball. And when you step out of the golf course and you ask people if they play golf, there's not that many people that play golf, but there is a niche that does. So just a point like that. So, I mean, in housewares, the average is 5%. If you put on a character, let's say like Sesame Street or Ninja Turtles that I've experienced, the licensee has to pay the brand like Nickelodeon or Sesame Street, and they have to pay me. So maybe the royalty rate will go down a little bit. There's also, I have products under like Farberware Pro where they have to also, like the company that makes the product also has to pay Farberware Pro and to pay me. So sometimes those type of royalty rates go lower. So it's all relative. You have As Seen on TV, which I've had a chance to have several products on. That is lower when it's direct to consumer, but when they're selling to the wholesaler, to the buyer, wholesale, then your royalty rate might go up a little bit because they have they have they have less margin when they're doing it to the stores than they are direct to consumer, where they're not sharing with anybody except they're paying for the media time. I've had a t-shirt line that royalty rate was 10%. Again, it's all relative to the industry, to their distribution channel. That's how I can really leave that one. Okay. All right. Your patent is only as good as your first lawsuit. Okay. Patents are just words. Look, everybody has their different opinions and suggestions on what to do with patents. It's really tough. For me as an inventor, I do the best that I can to be able to get a patent and protect it. I don't know sometimes which direction my ideas are going to go. I could license it. I could manufacture it. If I have a chance to get a patent, I try. I've also licensed products, but really that's very difficult. I was going to say I licensed product without any intellectual property, but that was really based on relationship. Again, if you don't have any IP, intellectual property, what do they really need you for? They could do it themselves. Look, Will Salas, he's on here. If you go to the About page on the National Inventor Club.com website, he is very active with the Patent and Trademark Resource Center, which is a division of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. If you want to know if your idea is out there and you don't want to spend money on a patent search, look, I always think it's really important. That's one of the most important things, in my opinion, to be able to get a patent search done. But you can go through uspto.gov and do a patent search on there for yourself and just put in descriptive words. You can also use the PTRC, and you can connect up with Will Salas on here to be able to help if you want to make a business plan or you're talking about funding. Small Business Development Center, which is also active with this National Inventor Club. They can connect you up with possible grants depending on what you've invented. They can help you with business plans. They can help you with market research, all for free. And you can look that up. AmericasSBDC.com, I think is what that one is. Okay, what else? Are we good? Because I think I'm losing my voice. Any more questions? You guys good? Look, I wanted to really be able to expand my Long Island Inventors Club since we're virtual right now. Why not invite the entire world to these meetings? I have the inventor of the Rainbow Loom coming up. I'm not even going to tell you some of the other guests that we're just trying to figure out dates for upcoming meetings. I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 more meetings for free. And I also want to be able to have all this stuff for the inventors on the website. So you have directories, you're getting I'll show you the t-shirt again. Did I lose the t-shirt? I don't know where. Oh, here it is. Everybody who joins as a premium member will get a t-shirt, National Inventor Club to be proud of. Good stuff. I'm going to just make it so it's a good community for us, and we want to be able to make it happen. Put in the chat, please, America. Oh, America's SBDC. Small. Will, are you on here? If Will Salas is still on, maybe you can give the America's SBDC. I'm sorry. Oh, America's. Oh, that's for, got it. So it's SBDC.com is that, but I think there's America's SBDC. SBDC. Any more questions? Anything else? Thank you, Abe. Good seeing you again virtually. What else? Is there any way to research total volume of a product currently selling? You know, I've Jonathan, that's an interesting question. I did this one back in the day. If they're a publicly traded company, you could take a look and see that line of products that they have, and you could see the numbers if they're public. If they're not public and it's private, it's probably not going to be seen. Can everybody like, or what is it, the likes on Facebook, the hearts on YouTube? If you can really help out, I want to continue to keep building up this Inventor Club for us. So just please like it. Tell your friends and your fellow inventors about our meetings. That would be great. If you feel like you're a and if you're an inventor that should be in the inventor spotlight, tell me. I'll get you on the homepage of National Inventor Club. Get some exposure for you. All right, I think we're good. Are there companies here looking to speak to inventors for licensing deals? Maybe. I'm trying to watch everybody that's coming in and out all night. But yeah, look, one of the best ways to look for licensing companies is to just imagine and envision. Well, I still have Jonathan's. Here's Yassine's. Okay. I could tell you that one of the best ways to try to find a licensee is to envision where your product is going to be sold. So if I come up with something, I'm going into the store and I'm looking around and I say, oh, that looks good. That looks like a company that I see my product with. And I flip over the box and I look on the back of the package and I write it down. I write the name of the company down. If it says distributed by their salespeople, but if it's the brand name and there's information on the back, I take it and I rip apart the company online to see what they're up to, where they're selling, how they're, do they attend trade shows, everything else, see where I said, where their distribution channel is, and where they are. And I call them up and I say, how you doing? My name is Brian. I have a product I think that would align nicely with your product line. Would you be interested in taking a peek at it? And listen, I told you guys, I'm an inventor also. You get very emotional about things, but remember, it's what's in it for them. You have to put your business cap on. I always say this. You have to put your business cap on, and you have to think about if they take this idea from you, what do they need to do and what's in it for them. So you want to be able to get it to a point where at least you have a good working prototype. I know a lot of people are into the sell sheets. Look, a quick 30-second video is good, some pictures, but nothing beats like they want to be able to have at least a prototype to see where you got going to it. So, and then these days, if you're not meeting in person, have the video uploaded to YouTube as unlisted, share the link, show it to them. Hopefully you have some, at least a provisional patent application, which is what I suggest to have at least before you disclose your idea to anybody out there. You may want to ask them to sign an NDA. It's up to you. But, over the times of continuing to come up with inventions and representing other inventors, I've had a chance to build really good relationships in many industries to be able to pitch it to them and kind of understand what they're looking for. But you could do the same thing. You could do the same thing. Just make sure that you're picking the right company to pitch to. If you're coming up with a housewares product and you're in the health and beauty area and they don't sell health and beauty, then don't pitch it to that company. And listen, go to the stores and look for the companies that have products in the stores right now, not marketing companies and all these places. Go to the stores and see the companies that are in the stores. Those are who you want to pitch to. You guys are funny with the comments. How do you present something to PetSmart? Well, Renee, this is interesting. Yeah, how do you pitch something to PetSmart? Well, you know that they have their own product line. I forgot what it's called. I have two puppies. I have a golden retriever and a cocker spaniel now, just a couple months old. So I'm in PetSmart quite a bit. They have their own proprietary line, but all the products that are sold in there are from vendors, from inventors, they're mostly from companies that created a line of product that pitch the buyers there. Same thing with Walmart and Target. They have their own proprietary product line. But you know what they're doing? Most of the time, if you see like a Walmart brand, I think it's, I forgot that I think maybe that's Target's. But what they're doing is they're buying product from wherever, from the factory, and they're putting their name on it because it's generic stuff that they could sell a little less than the brand names. So realistically, the retail stores are not licensing products from you. Okay, they're not licensing your invention from you most of the time. Okay, it's the companies that have products in the retail stores. Those are the ones that you pitch. Okay, so go to the stores and look to see who it is that you think might be a good candidate for you to pitch, and then call them up, find their website, send them an email, go on LinkedIn. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, connect up with me. I got a lot of good people on there, and once you become a connection, you have the connection of other people. So let's stay connected and just, or look them up. Look them up. All right. Thanks, my little sister, Jen. Up and up is Target. That's right. I know you're buying a lot of diapers and wet wipes right now, so good luck. All right. Are we good? Are we going to end the first National Inventor Club meeting? Everybody good? All right. Well, thank you everyone for thank you everybody for joining, and please keep in touch and keep an eye out for the next Inventor Club meeting. There'll be great guests. There'll be new features being added. There's already great features that are on. Please join the premium membership. For an inventor is $129 for the entire year. I always make sure people get their money's worth no matter what they do. So it's $129 for the entire year. $99 if you don't want a directory listing and you don't want a t-shirt. And then if you're a resource for the inventors, then it's $199 for the entire year. And you'll be in the directory and you'll be able to participate in all the activity that we're doing with the Inventor Club every month and all the time. So thank you, everyone. Please hit the like button and the heart button on YouTube. I'm waiting for LinkedIn Live to get the application in so we can also stream there. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night and keep on inventing. Thank you so much. Good night.